The Wannabes, episode 11 of season 2. My name is JD.
And this is your boy Wasabi. JD, happy Valentine's Day, my guy.
Happy V-Day, the V-Day special. We got this early on in the day, so we're not interrupting any SO plans. But hey, man, every Valentine's Day you gotta spend some time with the boys. You know, show the love.
Of course, yeah. I mean, maybe we'll just make this thumbnail like one of those like really funny and gaudy like Valentine's Day e-cards.
Well, I saw a meme. You know the meme of like turning around, like holding the girlfriend's hand and turning around looking at the other girl?
Oh yeah.
I saw an updated version where it's two of them back to back, so two guys are looking. So it should just be like the four of us, but we're both looking at each other, holding hands with our girlfriends.
Really funny. That is really funny, yeah.
That might be the move. But anyway.
That might be the move, yeah.
This morning we got a little session in, shorter than I would have liked. Morning melee feels like it's always. I even texted you after like the second game. I'm like, dude, this is some morning ass melee. Like we're doing some good stuff, and then all of a sudden we're just doing like terrible SDs and like shit DI and stuff. So we didn't have enough time to like really get a good groove going, but yeah, you said that you were hitting some stuff and that you had some stories to tell for this week. You kept it very vague off camera, so let's hear it.
Yeah. No, I think I really wanted to play you because I wanted that Fox Ditto practice. I wanted that nice Fox Ditto practice, and it was because I stumbled upon like a wealth of information. I forgot one aspect of like improvement that like I haven't done honestly in a while, which was watching other people's analysis VODs. And funny enough, this isn't from Dark Fox. I'm shouting at another content creator / former top player, still a top player, just inactive top player, Fiction. And I stumbled upon his Fox Ditto stuff, and the way he talks about the game and stuff like that. You know, like I know we met him. You talked with him a little bit more in Albany than I did that night, I remember, but the dude's so smart. Like it's so crazy that someone that smart like fell in love with Melee and put all of that knowledge into the game. And hearing him talk about Melee is really ridiculous. And so I've been kind of binging a lot of his analysis on the Foxo and Fox Falco. And I was just really happy that I got to test a lot of it out in our what was a very short Melee practice sesh.
So that was all this week that you just kind of mainlined Fiction material?
Yeah. No, I really just focused on Fiction, focused on, really one matchup, which was the Ditto. Because I was playing Billy Bo Peep and I just got absolutely outclassed. Absolutely outclassed by him. And I was like, God damn it. Like, of course, Billy Bo Peep's one of like the fastest rising players, in the game right now, but also like I got clapped, and so I started doing analysis for there, and I was like, oh, like maybe I'll try something different, maybe I won't go the Drug Fox route, maybe I'll try Fiction. And the way he explained some things like felt a little bit more intuitive to me, like off the book, and it was really interesting. And so before our practice session, like I was like on top of warming up, re-listening to like key parts of the VOD that I wanted to like remind myself. I like pulled out a notepad and wrote like 6 goals that I was like aiming for the friendly session, and really, really honing in on those. And I thought it was, I felt pretty happy with like the results, even if it was like a short time, and I know you were still ramping up and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, I think like that was such like an underrated part of like improvement that I like totally forgot about, that I haven't done like since a year ago, right? Since pre-COVID. And I think that like it's making me think about like how to structure my like training weeks a little bit better, and then also how to go into a friendly session and possibly trying to do analysis before a friendly session if I set it up at the right time, which is what I did like for you.
Right. Yeah, that's really smart. I mean, that's kind of what you'd think is an ideal way to learn and improve, is like set things up. I mean, from where I'm coming from, my goals are like have scaled back so dramatically, just as I get used to the new controller. So press L to light shield is my goal. You know what I mean? So like shit like that.
Right.
And so
right,
when you're coming at me with like the hard hitting combos, and I this week I mostly was just playing on ranked, trying to find like bad players to test my buttons against. It was kind of a good, not necessarily whiplash, but like kind of a pull into like, okay, this is where I'm shooting for. Like, this is the level I need to be playing. So let's just like cut the, what's the analogy for it? Like solder the wound, just like fucking put a bunch of flame to this open cut and make sure you're feeling the pain. And that's what happened. I definitely had to really zone in to keep up, which is healthy. And from the perspective of you coming in and like getting those, the first thing you did was shine spike me. I remember that clear as day.
I was so happy about that. Yeah.
Were you? Good for you.
Yes.
Glad you're happy about that.
I love getting the stocks.
Yeah. Okay, whatever. But overall, yeah, I definitely wanted to like see how that like evolved, and maybe we'll play later. We'll figure it out. But yeah, it's really smart to go into a friendly session with actual goals. I think a lot of people don't, especially with unranked as like the most viable, quickest option to play games. It's sort of just get in there and try to win, or try to like, I don't know, have the generalized play well as the goal. So I think that's probably the best thing you could do.
Yeah, I think like with the notes thing, it really helped kind of focus in on like, because like there's like a million things to improve on the game, and you just can't do that all the time. You can't improve on everything at once. It's like very stepwise, step function-esque. And so, if you just aim to work on like, I think like 2 or 3 things like each week, like it adds up, right? It's like over 150 things you've improved on it over like a span of a year, which sounds like a lot, right? Even if you split it over what, like 8 to 10 matchups, right? Like that's crazy. But I think like I forgot how well that works for me, because before I used to like, right, like we'd prep for Hax's nightclub, or like I knew that like, okay, like I'm playing Joe tonight, or like, oh, Panos is coming over, or Miso's coming over, so I should brush up on like the Falcon stuff. And like I'm doing that like while I was commuting to work each day, right? Or like, oh, I'm going over to see Hax, or I'm going over to see Rishi, like, and so like really prepping for like that specific matchup. And like it's so easy with how accessible Melee is to just like, pick up the controller, go on rank, and start playing. And I totally forgot how well, I guess, I had the formula. Like I just had the formula for it like pre-COVID. And it's funny, it took me a year. Granted, like there were a lot of other stressors that happened this past year for understandable reasons, but it's I just forgot how like solid that formula for success, at least for me, works out. And so I'm pretty happy about that. I was pretty stoked. And also Fiction is a fucking genius of a player. And like he broke down full hop mix-ups to me. Like I started full hopping more recently, and he broke down like where it's good, why it's good, and like the mix-ups and the counterplays like to it in a way that like I'm like, oh, I get why full hop is really good. Like I get it now. I'm not just like, oh, I think full hopping is good here, or oh, I see other players full hopping here, so I'm gonna full hop as well. Like there's like a specific reason and rhyme of when I'm choosing that option. And so I don't know, I'm just really happy because I think I'm seeing the game through a very, very fresh lens at the moment, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think rediscovering things that work for us is kind of an undersold like goal we should have. I think especially now, yeah. Stressors is a is an understatement for the past year, but I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
I guess it is all encompassing. I think because everything got thrown into chaos, like, I think every person had things that worked or didn't work, and now that was all thrown away. And there's an instinct to kind of feel like we need to either reimagine ourselves or like work from zero. But I think just figuring out what worked before and
Hmm.
then just saying, hey, like that was something good. Hold on. I need to turn my heater off. That's going to be a background noise.
Yeah, no worries. We'll just pause. I'm gonna go to pee then. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, what I was saying is like, I don't think it's as complicated as like starting from scratch or anything like that. It's really just looking back at what worked and bringing, you know, obviously you're not on the subway anymore. There's
Yeah.
physical places you're not going to end up. You're not going to be able to play hacks or Rishi next to them and whatever. But the idea of, yeah, preparing for a friendly session or watching VODs and analysis and like taking notes on that, those are things that, for me, that was just waking up and grinding for 20 minutes every day, like keeping myself warm consistently. That's something I haven't been doing. And it's just like hearing you talk about your pre-COVID stuff. It's like, oh shit, why don't I write in the mornings? Like, why don't I just practice for 20 minutes in the mornings? Like these very, very simple things that, attributed to a time where I felt like I was on in like an upward slope. It's just putting those pegs back in place and seeing how it works out. I think
Hmm.
that's obviously there's more to it. Like we still need to adapt to our new environments and grow and not just like look to the past for every answer. But in terms of trying to get back to a sense of normalcy or like what we used to feel was positive, it's as easy as just like trying the old playbook again.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, I think that's the thing. I mean, I'm subject to this as well a lot of the time, but like trying to look for new answers or like, oh, how do I do this? Like it you know, we think it has to be like completely brand new, right? Like something that we've never done before.
Hmm.
But really it's not. Like we're everyone knows themselves to like a pretty good degree, and there's stuff that works that like it's like, oh yeah, like there's no reason to like not do this, like to try to reinvent the wheel and stuff like that. Even with like the new like work from home, mostly stay at home for good responsibility and social goodness sake, right?
Hmm.
Like there's no reason to like change it up. I mean, that's what I felt mostly, like even when, yeah, no, I mean, it was just so refreshing, honestly, and to see it in like a different lens. And like, I don't know, the game feels very exciting to me right now because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I mean, you definitely have a lot of things that are working really well in your game. I mean, I'm excited to like figure out what I need to do to get back in to make these games even again. I see it in front of me and I'm like, all right, he's obviously grinding. I need to step up to like meet him where he's at. And that's also exciting too, to like to feel like an underdog. Um so we'll see you I'll see you next week on that friendly sesh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, make it longer.
Yeah.
Tell. schedule with Ash first.
Well, she came home from Costco and had a bunch of shit, and like
That's fair. That's
the
fair.
dog was freaking out. I'm like, I can't
Yeah,
just
no, I understand.
sit here and fucking play my game.
Quick tangent before we go to the next thing. As I cut you off.
Sure.
You know what's funny is I feel like the box is forcing me to think about the game more in a slower way because I just don't have the inherent muscle memory of a GameCube controller anymore. So like to get an advantage in the game, I feel like I have to like think about the game and the neutral situation a lot more than I like was in the controller. And it's not just because like I'm trying to like think about it, but it's because like it's just very apparent I can't move as fast with the box yet.
That makes sense.
So it's really funny that a controller that lets you move faster is forcing me to play a little slower.
Well, at least for now.
For now, yeah.
Which is like the only way to make it work for you is to accept like, okay, I can't do the exact same things as before. Like that's physically impossible. So you got to take your time and you got to, realize what works. That's like the fiction, like Cody school of thought. That's how they got so good, is that they just broke it down to like, we're gonna do these 11 things so fucking good that it's because Fox is such a broken character that as long as we do these 11 things 95% accurate, then you're gonna win most of your games. And so yeah, that's like how you got to do it.
Exactly. It's so crazy. I'm finding myself like sometimes like getting hit and like getting 0 to death because like I find myself just like standing in game trying to figure out the positions and what I need to do in the neutral and like the threat ranges and what the opponent wants to do. Are they trying to protect themselves, or are they trying to take space, and then what I have to do as a counter. So sometimes I get blown up because like I'm just watching the game
right
while playing it. It's really, really funny when those moments happen, even when I get like fucked up for it.
Yeah, I could see like extra aggressive players giving you a hard time.
Yeah, super. Yeah,
all right, maybe
that's tough.
Maybe that's my strat going forward, is to just turn on the old jets, get in there.
I mean, when you play fast, you're playing good. Like I remember the last game before you had to dip, the Pokemon game, you definitely moved a lot faster and like took less of like a beat waiting for like what I would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I was sad to go. But whatever. That's that we'll pick it up next time.
Yeah, definitely.
And speaking of speed, one of the topics I really wanted to talk about was something we've mentioned before, and that's the idea of like sprinting, right? Mm-hmm. So this is outside of the Melee context, but it's still kind of in the zone of like working on things and trying to improve and all that. So the idea of sprinting, right? I had a conversation with a friend, just a short aside, where I was watching like a YouTube video, and in the pre-roll, she came up as an actor in the commercial. It was like a 3.5-minute commercial, and she was like the lead actor.
Interesting.
Selling these blankets or whatever. And of course I watched the whole thing, so I was like, holy shit, that's Sam, and sent her a picture of like, hey, I saw you, that's so cool. And we just started talking about like creativity during COVID. Her perspective is very similar to mine, where like she's just trying, like she's living at home, because she lived in Brooklyn and she moved back to the Bronx. Like she can't do the things she wanted to do. She had an improv show, a first improv show with her new troupe on March 14th or something. That got canceled. So her life got completely thrown into the shitter. And in order for her to like rediscover creativity and like getting into the zone and improving and writing and that sort of thing, the biggest thing we started talking about was this idea of sprinting and having our energy come in like short, powerful bursts, which I know me and you have had that conversation too, of like, we're both in that kind of field where if one of us is sprinting, the other one is like catching their breath, and then it seems to pad back and forth. So before I go on, I'm curious, like, where do you feel you are in your cycle right now in terms of like improving in Melee and practicing and all that? Or do you think that you're kind of in a more steady place?
I feel like right now, honestly, I'm like just trying to find balance and consistency more than anything.
Mm.
So I think like when I don't feel motivated right now, it's not because like I'm bored, but rather because I feel like so stressed or burned out to do things like melee and stuff like that. And so for me right now, it's about finding like balance and consistency, as I said. And it was tough with the move, and I'm getting, as I told you, getting into Pokemon cards and stuff like that. And I actually am enjoying the hobby, but it's crazy with the scalpers and everything, so I can't dedicate like as much time in it as I want to.
Sure.
And so I had to even like develop like a game plan for that, of like, okay, like just so that I'm not checking eBay or listings like 24/7,
Right.
But right now in melee and in work and everything else in my creative endeavors, I just feel like I'm getting close to where I want to be in balance, where I'm like happy with like my top priorities, which is like work, relationship, and like melee. And then the next thing I want to add, now that I'm not so stressed and burnt out, is more like towards the physical health side. So I was able to start running again finally, and doing weights. Ooh, doggo. Hey, you're our mascot. Yeah. Bye. Very, very cute. Yeah. So really that. So I don't think I have like right now a drive for new creative endeavors, and I've had those bursts like over Christmas and stuff like that. But I'm definitely finding my groove in things right now with like my top priorities.
Nice. So what do you think was like the catalyst to change kind of your attitude towards it, to like be like, okay, this on and off cycle is unacceptable, I need to like bring it here and find the same satisfaction of a consistent upswing, rather than because sprints feel really good, and so
Yeah, they do.
being able to get off of that high and that like almost drug of it, like how was that transition working for you right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was like expectations and forgiveness, honestly. The fact that like I expected, I was talking with my therapist, was like, I thought that once I moved to California, like especially like the fall and winter was like very shitty in some moments, and we've talked off camera about like the family stuff and then obviously like COVID stuff and the job stuff and stuff like that. And so I think once I like got to California, I expected like all of that to kind of like suddenly wash away, but I wasn't realizing how hard it would take, like how long it would take to get like settled, to like unpack everything, to make a new space feel like home and comfortable. Like, right, we got that day bed maybe a few episodes ago, right? Like only like 2 or 3 episodes ago, it was in the background. You don't see any boxes really anywhere now. And so that, and then like forgiveness of like that it will take time, because I just like wanted it like immediately,
Right.
and really being, and then really having to like start with like simple stuff. Like, so for me, when I get really stressed or burnt out, like I oh shoot, my coworker told me there was a term for it, but it's like revenge something.
Yeah,
revenge
like
relaxing,
like
or
staying up late.
Yeah.
Revenge sleep time procrastination.
I mean, that's a term. Those are words, JD, that you string together. Uh, it's revenge something.
It's revenge. Yeah, revenge bedtime procrastination.
Okay, cool. That's it. That's the medical term. So, and so I was staying up late and doing that, and it just wasn't good for me. So like, one goal for 1 week was just like get the bedtime in order, and then I had more. Then I found out I had more energy for work, so I got work in order. And then I started pulling in melee, and I had melee in order. And it came with some sacrifices. Like, I had to tone down, like, the somewhat obsessive sprint of Pokemon cards and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But, like, just finding out and, like, being honest, like, like, I'm having a tough time finding balance and not being too hard on yourself and working on it, like, piecemeal is what got me to, like, where like, how I feel right now, which is, like, pretty balanced. And I think, like, it's similar to melee, right? You can't just like do everything all at once. You have to start with like maybe the edge guarding, and then move to the punish game, then think about like the individual percents, and then think about the neutral into it. It all flows into each other.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really on board with at least where my intellectual side is agreeing with you, right? It's like, yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot of sense. And I think most people would agree that, yeah, those are, it, I guess it's like an easier said than done, but that sounds a little more dismissive than I'd like.
Mm-hmm.
I guess where I'm at right now, like I did just the sheer fact that my background is different is indication of like hopefully not another sprint, but another burst. And this is
Mm-hmm.
another thing. This is what I wrote down is like sprints versus waves of energy. Like just the way we talk about these things. Because
Hmm.
a sprint has a lot of implications of you can't keep it up, you will run out of energy, and you have to slow down, right? Like that is what a sprint is. But a wave is a natural, like it is inevitable. There's always ups and downs. Like that's how waves work, and they can carry momentum. Like you can ride the wave, and at the same time you could like succumb to it. Like if you treat this like oncoming energy, whatever the catalyst is, like maybe you have a good date night, or maybe you have a good friendly session, or you get a compliment at work, like some sort of pickup. There's the it's coming like that. You're gonna have that rush of energy, that wave of energy. And for me, I've been eyeing like this, for example, my looper, which I haven't touched since I moved here. I finally broke it out and like set it up and started playing with it again. And even though by the end of the day I didn't like make a new song, I just kind of repositioned my computer and got everything set up. I had utilized that wave of energy to like give me more energy again, like just setting my physical space up to be able to repeat it. Um, Same thing with like my room. My room for the longest time was like a crazy mess. Just we put all of our junk in here in order to like have it be somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had one weekend a few weekends ago where we just started cleaning it and utilized that huge rush to like get my space up, to get the pads in the background, like bookshelf set up, like have it be less of a stressful zone. And then, you know, by the end of it, my energy was still lower than the peak, but now it found like a higher floor. And I guess that's what my goal for this week is to kind of reimagine what my habits are when it comes to energy and productivity. It's more about like capturing the waves and managing my natural rhythm rather than like, oh, it's sprint time, like fire the gun, dash 100 yards and see how far I can get before I have to like, get a glass of Gatorade and stretch, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and your legs like give out, and you're
Yeah, like
wheezing on the floor and immobile, and you pulled your back and
right.
can't do anything for the
Like
next week.
yeah, it's super unhealthy to say how far can I go? Like how many things can I make? How many podcasts can I edit before I like burn out so hard that I need to take a week off? Like that, it makes sense in the moment. You're like, "Oh, I have this energy, like let's just utilize it." And that's the danger of it, right? Is as we said, like sprints feel really good. They feel amazing when you're in it because you at the end of the day you're like, oh shit, I got this done, like I'm ready to keep going. And it could last a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. um but I think if you're just going full steam ahead, the crash is coming, and then sometimes the crash just like makes it that much harder to get your inertia back up. It's just a matter of reframing, I think, and that's my goal.
Yeah, I definitely agree with it. I think it starts with also small steps and recognizing like also small wins and like giving yourself like a pat on the back, like good shit for the room, and
Right.
it looks great. It looks like it's coming along, and like thinking back, like I said, sleep was the first step, but honestly, the first step was also like setting like realistic boundaries and goals. Like I think like Pilar and I, like Pilar started her second semester of grad school, so she has so many books to read, and work's been crazy, as I told you
Mm-hmm.
about as well. And so like I think we just had a hard rule that like Saturday we don't do anything aside from deciding like what our grocery list is, and then we do chores like Sunday morning and like early afternoon. and we crank it out then. But like Saturday, like we don't touch it all. Like it is for relaxing. We don't do anything. We can kind of be lazy and veg out. And like it made the like unpacking a little bit slower, but it also just made it sustainable.
Right.
Right? Like we were able to keep it, and it's so nice now that we don't have to unpack, but like really it was like just that decision making was like so crucial in finding something consistent. Because it's like, yeah, of course you like moved into a new home and you want to like have it look good, but like, you know, you have to also just look out for yourself first and foremost and take care of yourself.
Yeah, hard agree, man. I guess it's just a matter of, you know, I think hard rules and like setting stuff up is something I've tried. I think it does work for some people. And just to give like my perspective on it, like I'm of the mind where I look for like signs and triggers rather than like setting, because once I set up like a schedule for myself, I don't want to do anything on the schedule. Like once I make it established, like, all right, this is my day for this and like blah blah blah, it, unless it's meetings for work, then it's very easy to just like, you know, click on the meeting link. But for in terms of like scheduling my day out, it just not for me, right? But for other people definitely works. So I think what I need to recognize is like, okay, what works for me is to realize if I'm working, like if I do some good work and I'm, you know, in the zone between 9 and 10:30, right? I get a solid chunk of whatever it is done. And then I start to like, you know, slack a little bit. Maybe I put on a podcast and then I turn off the podcast, go to YouTube, and I'm just watching YouTube, and I'm, you know, and I get into that little rut. It's like recognizing the trigger and immediately taking myself out of it, right? Like, doesn't matter what I do. I have like 10 different things I could do that are productive. It's like walking the dog, or, you know, like taking a box outside that deserves to be in recycling, like little things like that. It's just the, yeah, as you said, small, like almost, it can't be too small. Like it literally can't. There's nothing that like you could literally just like wipe off your desk and like walk over to the garbage and put it in. And as long as the next thing you do is like another micro decision of good or bad, like that is how you kind of can kind of force the wave back into that upward trajectory. So yeah, I think, you know, as we're we're getting slammed with snow like every week over here. Like,
yeah, that's tough.
Winter,
that one.
Winter's so much worse than last year. It's like ridiculously worse. But, you know, as we're kind of getting out of it, and I see right now like some icicles melting, which is a positive sign. I'm sure it'll freeze yet again, but you know, this is an opportunity to like not rely on the weather breaking to fix my mood, or, you know, a warm day to give me, you know, the energy to do XYZ. It's like, let me see if I can make this happen myself first. And, you know, get back into creating stuff, and, you know, hopefully that translates to all aspects and all that shit. So that's my little spiel, you know?
No, it's important. And what works for me doesn't work for you also. I mean, like, for me, like, rules and a schedule help just because it's like I have ADHD, so like having that sort of structure to like focus myself helps. But like, yeah, like definitely stay true to yourself.
Hell yeah. Speaking of, you want to take a little break?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
All right, so we're back. I know we have one question, and you just told it to me. I'm really excited for it. So I was thinking, let's just kind of get into the weeds with it a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about, so we could dedicate the second half. I mean, oh man, that quote though was so good. I just like can't stop thinking about it, but we'll push forward. So the question is pretty simple, but it's kind of a two-parter. Does top 100 feel attainable in Melee? If so, why does it feel like success in content creation is different? So basically they have a short follow-up saying, people feel like if they put everything aside and put Melee at the head of their lives, they could make top 100. But
Yeah.
for whatever reason, content creation feels like a completely different beast to be successful at. And I tend to agree that there is a pretty stark distinction, but I'm curious where your head's at with this question.
Yeah. Okay. Is it's a multifaceted question, right? So is top 100 attainable is the first part of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely, I think like anyone can get top 100. Honestly, like if they put in the work, and like it takes time. Like it's not going to be overnight. Like there's very few that can do it in 3 years, even if like there's a quote from Fiction a few years ago being like you could do it in 3 years, and like we've seen Cody and Zane do it and stuff like that. But like there's so many good players that it took them years, right? Ginger's been playing for like what 10 plus years before he got it. Rishi too. Darktooth I know took 5 years, and that was big on him. So like yeah, like I think people just kind of get rushed, and like when they like get close to it and then don't reach it, then like that's the pressure cooker. Like that's the test when you have to prove yourself. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know like for example Big Kid, right? He was a top 100 contender last year, and he missed it like by a little bit. But like not to have that like be the end of the story, right? I think is big. Same with Reeve, right? Reeve was Mr. 101 for the longest time.
Right.
And both incredibly great players. I'm just stating the fact. I think the thing with it is though that like why is it different from content creation? And like even if there is a group of 100, like even if there's a group of panelists deciding your rank kind of somewhat arbitrarily through their own perception, and that being compiled, that is way more structured, and you have way more control over it because you can control your wins and losses. Like Nico beating, here's a great example. Nico, right? Nico beating Wizrobe at Genesis. Like there's no way that you beat Wizrobe and not make top 50.
Right.
Arguably top 40, top 30 for him, honestly, with the wins that he has. But that's the thing, is like that is black and white, and I think for like human society, like black and white stuff is easier to understand. So I feel like top 100 is more attainable, because even if at the end process is people deciding what your worth is and rank as a player, you control your wins and losses to an extent, and so no one can deny you from beating Wizrobe, for example, for Nico's sake, right? Like similar to me getting 14th in NYC, right? Like pre-COVID, it's like no one could say I didn't beat Smuckers.
Sure.
And that shit carried me to 14th, to be honest. But I think with content creation, it's only the perception of others. So you can be putting out really, really good content, and it could not be reaching the right people. It might just not work with people. Also, it's not just about Melee like skill. Like it's not about the skill of being a good content creator, but it's about like lots of soft skills. Like how do you market yourself? How do you structure the videos? I know Ludwig put out a recent video of like how to be a streamer, content creator, where he like really broke it down, like about like having a story, each video telling a story, like a intro, the content of it, and a conclusion, right? And that's a really good, I mean, it's just writing a paper pretty much, but in video format. And so there's a lot of soft skills to it too, you know. It's not just like, oh, I'm gonna turn on the camera and do it. And for some people it works like that, and that is the exception to the rule. But I think it's not, one shouldn't assume that for themselves, if that makes sense, until like it's kind of proven. And it's so arbitrary, right? Like what thumbnail, like every kind of video you put out kind of is a little bit of a lottery, right? Like is the thumbnail fire and people will click on it? Like think about this guy's Toast, right? Like he just did one really good Among Us game, made it into a really good video, and now he doesn't have to, he has the same thumbnail pretty much every time. He has the same like titling every single time, and he just makes the number a little bit higher, and it works because he hit the lottery already. But there isn't that lottery aspect in Melee. You know, you have to sit down, play them, be the better player in those 3 to 5 games.
Yeah. No, I think that's a amazing kind of all-encompassing answer. I guess if I could find holes to try to fill with what you're talking about, Yeah, I mean, just to revisit it, top 100 feels attainable. It feels like an impossible, amazing goal when you first start. Like, oh man, I'll never be top 100, but imagine if I was. Like, oh
Yeah.
god, it'd be so good. And then over time, you start to realize, like, oh, this guy has a win on this top 100 player, and I'm keeping up with this guy. And it's like, oh, this guy is a top 100 player, and I'm keeping up with him. Oh, this person is like top 50, and I took a game. Like you
Yeah.
realize, like, the more people you play in that zone, the more attainable it feels because you are improving to that level. That is, again, if you're putting in the work and putting yourself out there and improving.
Mm-hmm.
Content creation, yeah, there's so many other factors that come in that make it feel almost impossible at times, and other times feel like, oh, this is in the bag. Like, I'm kicking ass, I can do this. So a few examples that I can kind of bring here. You might hear my TikTok as I look for my my sister on here.
Mm-hmm.
My sister makes videos of like her kids. They're adorable.
That's cute.
And she had one video go pretty viral. There she is. And the video was of her and my nephew. Here it is, 1.2 million views. She went hella viral, right? And that's like the equivalent of, let's say, Ryobi being Wizrobe. Or you get a huge win. When it comes to Melee rankings, you get that one huge win, you show it to people for a whole year, they're like, oh, okay, you're top 100. Like, shoo-in.
Yeah.
If you don't have terrible losses.
Yeah, and they can't say, well, I don't think Wizrobe's like that great, Like,
right. It's like, bam.
To a certain extent, it can't be denied from you.
Right. But in this case, like, she got that thing and she got a good amount of followers from it. And then, that's not enough. Like, that gets you only so far. Sometimes you get a super viral video and, it's like that guy who did the sea shanty thing that made it to my grandma's television on Channel 7 because he was making music, and one of them got super omega crazy viral that everyone knew about it. And then he got like a record deal and he became, successful from it. That's the equivalent of winning the lottery, right? So it's like, even if you do have something go crazy successful, it's not enough to carry. Sometimes it's like the other thing. So in my personal experience, I don't know, I don't complain about this as much as I feel like it. But a couple years ago, when I made a few of those songs, one of the songs I put out, I released it on Reddit. I like posted it, put it on Reddit. And that day, Ultimate was announced. Like, the Ultimate trailer came out. So nobody gave a single shit about this cheeky little Melee video that I put up. Even though I spent like days recording it and like editing it and putting a video together with my friend and blah, blah, blah. Didn't matter. Ultimate was released. So I got, I felt like oh shit, I didn't get the attention it deserved or whatever. But that happens. Consistency will come up with that. So I made another video a month later, put it on Reddit, and that same day, for whatever reason, it was like Falco Day. And everyone was just posting videos of Falco that were hitting the front page. Of just like, oh, here's another picture I drew of Falco. It was so stupid. But these pictures were blowing up. So anything else like didn't even cross people's minds. It just got completely buried in this meme wave of fucking terrible Falco drawings. So, things like that. Obviously, there's ways to succeed. Like, I didn't put a video out every day. I didn't put it on, I didn't follow up with consistency. And there's so many ways to actually get to that level. But when it comes to feeling attainable and feeling like this is something that I can go, it's a huge gut punch when you feel like it doesn't matter, how strategic I am. Sometimes, it's meme day and your shit doesn't get any views on it. Like, people don't care for that day, or sometimes Ultimate gets announced. And so that's the tricky thing about content creation in general, is like, sometimes, it feels so out of your control that the only thing you can do is like set up a situation for yourself where you truly, almost in a zen way, don't care about views and don't care about like who's watching it. It's just for yourself. Like, I just want to make this because I like making it, and I'm happy to do it to no one, which is kind of a delusion, because I don't think anyone truly makes content and hopes no one sees it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to almost like trick yourself into not caring about viewership or attention while doing the exact thing that makes you get viewership and attention.
Yeah.
So you have to like take success out of the equation and be like, no, I'm just here to get better at my art and to express myself to doesn't matter how many people. And then all of a sudden you like make this one shit video and it, you know, everyone knows what it takes to go viral. So I'm not breaking any barriers talking about it, but that's why it feels so different, you know? And you know, the only thing you could do is live with that chaos.
Yeah.
And truly detach it from the thing we're used to, which is like, you know, trying to get PR'd in our region or improve at our melee or get top 100. Like, you have to really separate those two goals as completely different things. And I guess that's my answer.
No, I completely agree. I think also the part about like honestly, like it's just like when you think about how much of a lottery it is to like be good, because like even with melee, right? Like if you have a good game plan against like, say, I don't know, like, right, like Zane was always good at Fox Smart. Like he just sliced and diced foxes all day, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he first was coming up, he didn't really have to change his game plan, you know? And he got there. And I think that's the thing, is like when you do content creation, it's like the minute it goes viral, it's like, oh, okay, what's the next thing you're gonna do also?
Mm-hmm.
And then having to like not one up that, but like until you be a content creator where it's like whatever you put out like is pretty fine and you have a community that like or likes that idea and it's expandable, it's tough, right? You have to kind of like try something completely different. Like I recently got into Aatrox's channel recently, and like it's really interesting, the mix of like he does like monkey ball stuff, he'll do other game playthroughs, he'll do stuff with Ludwig, he'll do like, and he does like marketing Mondays, right? Because he's a he works in marketing, and it's really weird, and it's kind of funny the way he presents it and stuff like that. But like to be able to have a series, right, where it's like, oh, marketing Monday, haha, like, you know, takes a while, and it's a lottery whether it's like, is it a good idea, and then is it like scalable also? You know, you don't have to scale good dash dancing in neutral. You just do good dash dances in neutral, you know?
Right.
It's not like you get one stock, it's like, okay, what am I gonna do now?
Right.
You know, and so I think that's like the thing as well. And honestly, like I think top 100, like I have just way more respect for content creators, having like been and seen the content realm like through like more of a spectator's eyes, honestly. But like it's just so hard to like get the blow up that like someone deserves, right? Like even like I mean, like shout out for Walt, right? But like everyone's talking about Walt now, and very justifiably. And I loved, like, I didn't even know Walt, and I loved his montages even beforehand, like the Cyrox combo video is still one of my favorite videos by him, and he knows that. But like you know, he hit the lottery, like you know, with the Axe April Fool's Day thing. Just the titling of it was perfect, and people found it funny, and people loved it. I remember if you look at the views, that blew up really, really quickly. And then there are other things that took a little while, right, to kind of get there. And now, you know, people put out stuff and people are like, sick, Walt, right? But he also like set up himself up and like put so much work into it, right? With the Our Axe mini doc.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he does commentary now, you know, he also has his own podcast, shout outs to the Mix Up, right? Like there's so many other things than just on top of just making content to like put him out there, right? To see like how good of a content creator he like already is. And I think that's the difference, is it's like it's more of like it takes blind luck and patience to just show how good you are already, versus in melee it's so easy to just show when you're a better player.
Yeah. It's also easy to see when, like, show to yourself when you're a better player, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
The early story of mine that I love talking about is like first learning how to wave shine. And I think every Fox player remembers, it's like, where were you when JFK died? Where were you when you learned how to wave shine? And the reason
Aklo was in the womb.
I was, I was in like the sperm of a sperm, but it's, you know, it's so true because there are these milestones that we hit that are almost unrelated to anything ranking wise. It's just our own improvement. Like we remember being frustrated at something that now we can do it in our sleep. Like I can, you know, do a lot of tech as Fox that felt unimaginable to me when I first started playing. And that's true for anyone that's played over 2 or 3 years. It's like you evolve, and that's why the game is so addicting and why it's like such a rewarding experience. You know, we've talked about all this. We don't have to go on and on. But when it comes to creating videos, like, yeah, there are things that I can do in Premiere now. Like I know shortcuts for certain things, and you know, there was actually a cool moment where for my job, as I said, I'm like starting to do some content for my job. And I did a screen share of a video that I made, and she had some edits, and I could like take what she wanted in real time and make the edits. Oh yeah, let's do this filter here. And let me just, okay, once quick transition. Do you like this? No, shorter. Okay. Pop, 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 pop. And it was cool to see my competency in that, you know, be demonstrated. Like, oh, that was pretty seamless. I didn't have to look anything up to do these fairly simple things, you know, but that somewhat exists. But realistically, it's really hard to see your improvement as a commentator, or unless I'm listening to the first podcast versus the last one, hard to see the differences there. And it takes a little more like real self-confidence and like true understanding of yourself to be like, you know what, I am not going to derive my value from the success of these videos. I'm really going to focus on the metaphorical dash dancing of this, like the real nuts and bolts. Did I put this together? Did I put it together in a way that doesn't burn me out? Like, am I able to consistently come back to it and like not feel like this is a sprint, you know? Those super soft skills, like the very intangible differences are what makes, like, you know, any content creator super frustrated and super happy at the same time. Yeah, I mean, it's also like I hope to see what the other side looks like. Like, I think there's definitely a difference in when we first started versus now in terms of like viewership and attention and things like that. But at the same time, like, I think, you know, we still have a lot to learn on how to develop those soft skills, like how to realistically, you know, put out consistent content like everyone else does, or to do better marketing or blah, blah, blah. Like, those things are still ahead of us. So I guess we'll have to revisit this in a year or whatever and be like, okay, this is what feels attainable now. You know, it's going to be a long journey.
I agree. And kind of as closing thoughts, I think the crazy thing, right, and why it feels attainable versus not attainable is like, you can wake up one day being a content creator. You can't wake up and be a good player, you know? Like, you're not going to wake up and be like, I'm top 50 now, you know? I'm suddenly ranked 78, you know, 9 in my head in in Melee, you know? And a great example of that is I want to really use this as a case study of like Aklo versus Moxie 2D. So Aklo, let's start with Aklo first. Aklo didn't like wake up being a good player. Like, even if you listen to him like from his early days through our, like, during our 1v1 interview when he was playing PM, like, he was a good player back then, and he got to become a even better player now. But he wasn't like, and he just only wasn't able to like just compete at the tournaments because he prioritized school and stuff like that, which is very smart. People should do that. But, he didn't, HNC happened and he was already a good player when that happened and then got the signal boost there.
Mm-hmm.
And then quarantine happened and he could net play and he got the signal boost there. And then he entered the Slippy Leagues and that shit. But Aklo did not go viral. He was always that good of a player and just wasn't able to enter events, right? Versus think of Moxie 2D. Really great content creator. You'll remember him as the guy that used to make like all the old Melee posters and like Melee art like back in like 2015, 2016.
Okay.
And so like he made the Five Gods poster, he made like a like Leffen poster, like in a kind of like stylized animated fashion. But that's how I knew him, right? And what's crazy is that like he like quadrupled his like follower count on like YouTube and like his video views and stuff like that because Jaded Animations like rated him with like 200,000 people for his like Pokemon art block. Right? And like in what world are you going to prepare for that, right? And he made a really funny good video about like the chaos that pursued after he got rated with these like 200,000 people or whatever. And he woke up one day being viral, and that just doesn't happen with Melee. And I think that's why people also really love Melee because it's so tangible. You don't wake up one day being a good basketball player, for example.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely like there are a lot of things out of your control that all you can do is set yourself up for that to be. It's like, I think in Melee it's 90-10, right? There's 90% of your improvement is in your control. 10% is like on the day, what factors tend to make you win over someone who's close to your skill. Like if it's a toss up, that 10% is like, what did the other person do to prepare? Like things that you can't really pin down. But with content creation, it's almost like 30-70. Like 30% is in your control. You show up every day, you make the stuff, you get better, blah, blah, blah. Because, some people are so undeniably good at art or music that eventually that as long as they just put the right stuff out there, they're going to get picked up. Like they're good enough.
Get caught.
Like the internet will discover them eventually. But you know what? The main subject of that sentence is like the internet will discover you. Like you will not will yourself into success. You just have to show up and like kind of raise your hand meekly, and people are like, hey, you, and you're like, yeah, and they're like, oh, I love you, like come here, join us, and then you're in. So as long as that like is, I think, understood, then you're not gonna get burned out, you're not gonna feel completely screwed by society and feel like everything's unfair. You'll be like, all right, it's not my time yet, let me keep showing up and putting in that solid 30 that I need.
Yeah, that was a fun question.
Yeah, fantastic question. That was Justin,
question,
aka Doodle Dudester.
Dude, shout outs to the Dudester. I need to play him soon.
Indeed, shout outs to the
I'm gonna
Dudester.
hit him up after this.
But yeah, I think that wraps it up for today. Any parting words?
That's about it. I think it's a good time to wrap up. That was a brilliant question. Your boy needs to win an eBay auction for some cardboard, and that's like my closing. That's my closing argument. Yeah,
I gotta go time the dip on this Dogecoin right now.
Yeah, nice.
I'm not playing with my full portfolio anymore. I'm definitely.
I'm glad. Thank God. I was so stressed for you.
It was never my full portfolio. It was like a third of it. Now it's like a tenth of it. And
that's smart. That's good.
Maybe like 3%. But I'm seeing like, all right, how much can I flip from this Dogecoin with like $100 over 2 months? Like, let's have some fun with it.
Yeah, of course.
If you're also interested in stocks, join our Discord because we have a gambling money on the stock market channel that's actually been pretty active.
Yeah.
Come have fun. That's it. That's all we got, man.
Yeah, dude. As always, pleasure. We gotta get a longer session next week, and happy Valentine's Day. That's a dip. That's a dip.
Stonks.
Dip if I've ever seen one.
Stonks only go down. All right, man. Have a good.
Wannabe stonks. That's what we need to go rise. Hold the line, guys. Hold the line.
Diamond hands, baby. Have a good V day, man. Catch you later.
Yeah, you do. Happy Valentine's.